I am an elder millennial. Born in 1981, I'm the first model year of millennial. Those of us born in the early 80s have gotten a couple extra titles over the years. Generation Y, like X, Y, Z. We got Zennial, given our closeness to Generation X. Generation Goonies, since we were all free-range, latchkey kids, and the Goonies came out in the early 80s, or something. Honestly, these titles are pretty cringe, and I'm glad they haven't caught on. Millennial sounds fine to me, and I will take it. But I'm not here today to talk about the wild era of the early 80s, or the glitzy, coked-up era of the 90s, or the boom and bust era of the early aughts. I am here today to examine the early 2010s. Those years are the new nostalgia. It hit me about a month and a half ago when some friends were over to visit and wanted to see some of my old work. As in, my old craft, my art. The opposite of the corporate monotony that was our day-to-day life at the time. So I turned on Artsquatch. It is a documentary about the visual arts program at the Sasquatch Music Festival in the late spring of 2014. That was our era as shiny young millennial adults. We had about 20 street artists, muralists, and other creative wizards painting and building large-scale installations all across the Columbia River Gorge here in Washington State. And we were doing it live as people were walking into the concert venue. It was the sublime union of inspired music, of inspired visual art. It was almost all just too much. I've been trying to put my finger on what is different about this era. We still have music festivals. As a matter of fact, they are significantly less expensive than they were a decade ago. The tickets to Sasquatch Music Festival were around $450 in 2014. Similar fests these days are $200, $260 or so. That's a lot less. Though it could be said festivals these days are also a lot less. A day's lineup now might be 7 or so musical acts. Before, there would be too many to watch them all. There would be 4 or 5 different stages, each with their own stacked lineup. You had to make choices about what to see. And then there was the curated experiences throughout the fairgrounds. That's what we were there for. Sure, you could still say that the experience is still curated nowadays, but the word I'd use instead is manufactured. Even in 2014, the manufacturing was beginning to seep in along the edges. There was a branded ubiquity from the pamphlets to the wristbands to the festival signage. The work my crew was there doing was more organic. It was suited to the mood and the time and the vibe. Even at the time, it felt odd to see the corporate art creeping up on what I felt should be the providence of my fellow visual artists. As the years went on, we were invited back, but we were relegated to a smaller and smaller area on the fairgrounds as opposed to being able to build wherever we saw fit. And eventually, the festival didn't come back at all. This corporatized blandness loomed behind everything in the early 2010s like a specter, waiting for its chance. But before this chance would come, we had a vibrant era where working artists plied their crafts everywhere. We were throwing aside the artistically banal era of the 90s or early aughts and forging ahead. And we were proud to be doing it. There was still art magazines and shows. We had shows and magazines for everything. I had loads of fun gigs. I was an art salesman. I was a concert videographer. I made commercials for used cars. And it all worked well enough that I had the time and resources for my own projects too. There was plenty of money to be had, and it also had more value. This is probably at least part of the reason this has changed. The little things in life didn't used to add up like they do now. People then were able to lay down more cash for the experience. Now that people have less to pay, the sleek corporate art is simply more affordable. And hey, even in the cases where people are willing to pay more, why not just use sleek corporate art anyway? Also, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe everything isn't this sleek corporate bland. Maybe I'm just in the wrong spaces. If you think I'm wrong, come at me down in the comments. This doesn't just apply to the concerts and festivals of the world. The sleek corporate aesthetic has infiltrated so many areas of our lives. But 10 years ago, real art could be around any corner. The unexpected was what we had to expect. Now it feels like the only thing behind most corners is a sign requesting parking payment via an app. The same fee that pays for a short time parking here in 2025 would have bought me the food I needed for dinner back in 2015. We're just talking $5. Now let's roll back to 1995. I could go out for a whole meal on that same $5. I was only 14, and maybe it would be Taco Bell or McDonald's, but give me a break. $5. I think we're all tired of the old adage, money can't buy happiness, because it can sure buy ease of use in this late-stage capitalist society. Now, there's something to be said about the stages of capitalism as it pertains to this dearly missed previous decade. Then, capitalism was having a boom moment, and we didn't really realize it. Manufacturing had already been offshored. Employers in the US had moved on to expanding their marketplaces on an intellectual basis. The money to build these new marketplaces was there. For us millennials, with the creativity and the technical know-how, the world was our oyster. But that was a specific point in our society's capitalist journey. Once the path was cleared and the lights were lit, the intellectual labor itself began to come under scrutiny. Workers became engines of productivity, facing slowly rising goals on a march towards maximum utilization. At the same time, we are enabling these businesses to work towards maximum utilization of our money as consumers. And all the while, these jobs begin to slip away to other cities or countries. Brick by brick, we are building ourselves out of that generation in such slow increments that we couldn't see our complicity in this process from day to day. We built this world where each of us has been turned into a data point. We built this world where the jobs we used to do can now be completed on the other side of the planet or by AI. We built the framework, and we did a good job. We built the world where Western society no longer needed to be on top. Hey, by the way, if you live in a society, hit the like and subscribe buttons and see if they change color. We're all in this together. Looking at the past 15 years from this perspective, the economic brick wall that we as working people have found ourselves backed up to was going to come regardless of pandemics, regardless of politics. Although I gotta say, everything that's going on right now in the USA seems to sure be speeding up the process. That's all for today, folks. Get at me down there in the comments about what you miss most about the 2010s. And remember, make it a blockbuster night.